Alright, we have come to one of our more complicated models. Over here, this is muscle. This coming in here, and what we see up through here, is dealing with nerve. So this is a neuromuscular junction. Focusing in on the nerve down here, this yellow bit here is a process from our nerve. It's one of those long extending thin fibers that we've seen on microscope slides to this point. Wrapped around it is an accessory cell called a Schwann cell, and this gets wrapped in several layers. As you can see here, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times the cell is wrapped around this axon of nerve. Axon is the specific name of this type of process. Here, this is the nucleus of the Schwann cell in the outer layer of that Schwann cell. Now as we move up a little bit, we'll move in. This is that axon, and you can see an enlarged area here. This is a presynaptic knob. These little white things in here are vesicles that have neurotransmitters in them. They will be released over the plasma membrane, and there's a gap here. This space will separate so that our nerve and our muscle cell never actually touch. But the neurotransmitters will cross that gap and act on receptors on this plasma membrane right here of our muscle cell. Now the plasma membrane of a muscle cell has a particular name to it. It is called the sarcolemia. We see abundant mitochondria throughout this axon here. We have another presynaptic knob, another presynaptic knob. So this particular area is the actual junction between that nerve and the muscle, and it will allow the nerve to excite the muscle. Now in the muscle we also see lots of mitochondria through here, and we will see several of them in between these bigger organelles right here that we have several of in here. These make up the majority of the cell. So each one of these, this, back here, this, or this, is called a myofibril. Myofibrils contain the contractile unit of muscle. Now, wrapped around these myofibrils, we have something called the sarcoplasmic reticulum. It includes these blue structures and these light yellow structures extending around. Here it's been cut away so we don't see it, but this would extend around all of these myofibrils, as you can see from the top, and the yellow bits on the top up here. The blue line is called a T-tubule. T stands for transverse. The triad is that blue line and the yellow lines on either side. The sarcoplasmic reticulum plays a very important role in muscle contraction. It will be responsible for getting the signal from the nerve to every myofibril so that we have an actual contraction taking place throughout the whole cell. Now, we covered the idea of the sarcolemia here. It's also down here. This is the edge of the cell. These are more myofibrils here. This is an opening to a T-tubule, which is where the signal from the nerve will be transmitted around the sarcolemia, and it can enter here, or here, or here, and there'll be several more of those around the side. Alright, we've covered the idea of our myofibrils, but we're going to get in close. Now there's a line here, there's a line here, and there's a line here. This line and the light pink stuff, these are called Z discs. The Z discs from one to another, that area is called a sarcomere. It is a unit of contraction. It contains the two types of fibers needed within the cell. So this darker region here has thicker fibers that are all connected together through this line. These thicker fibers are called myosin. The thinner fibers are going to be attached to the Z disc out here. These are called the actin, and the actin will actually extend through these thick fibers until you hit this area, and then they will not be where that particular line is. So we have this H zone bordered on either side by myosin and actin filaments. The myosin are the thick filaments, the actin are the thin filaments, bordered on each side by actin only. We will talk about these in class and how they are important structures in muscle contraction. All right, turning the model around for a minute. On the back side of this model, these are some nervous structures coming in through here, more Schwann cells, but then we have this white area, and we can see all sorts of fibers through here. Hopefully fibers in a matrix leads you to the idea of a connective tissue. This is a connective tissue covering called the endomysium. And I believe we have now covered all the important structures on here. But for a quick review, several myofibrils covered with the sarcoplasmic reticulum. We've got the nucleus for the muscle cell. We have a nucleus here for the Schwann cell. So these are different cells. Remember, this gap separates muscle from the nerve right here. And the Schwann cell is a support cell for the axon of a nerve or a neuron. Thank you for your attention. Have a great day.